Hey YouTube, this is the art of prepping. So what's the difference between a prepper and a survivalist? They both can be very similar, in fact. The terms are used sometimes together, interchangeably in some writings and some books and some philosophies. And for the most part, they're very vague terms. Both of these terms typically get overused too much, and the specific meanings of them get watered down. And it's not even that there really is a definitive answer for this, but there is generalities and just movements in today's world as of 2016 that could give you maybe an inference of what it could mean if there was any difference between the two. For me personally, I kind of look at a prepper as someone that most likely will kind of prep in a group. You could be a lone prepper. It's not recommended, but at least you have some network. At least you know other people who are prepping. If you don't have a formal group, but you have a connection with other people that are like-minded, and you grow together. You share information. It could even be on YouTube, for example. Just meeting different people, sharing ideas. But most likely, though, you'll have a local group so that you can actually respond together to counter some type of calamity. Now, in terms of other things that preppers do, they tend to store goods and have a redundancy and have a reserve of things that they need, and also have the skills and to know how to use them. Also, I would have to say that preppers typically don't look at extreme situations like the end of the world kind of things, or martial law, or things that go on for forever, like these almost fantasy based. And I'm not saying that survivalists in general do this, but this is just a generality that you would find, or kind of one of those myths that, it's sometimes true, but most time it's not. But the fact that survivalists like to be a little more hardcore and be a little bit more bloody and gory, and they're a little bit more gun heavy, ammo heavy, and that's not always true. Now, in terms of what makes a survivalist different, though, from a prepper, would be pretty much they can be a little bit more of a lone wolf. Not always, but they typically can be, and from what I've seen personally. And they may not store as much resources as a prepper. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't, because they kind of maybe fall back on skill sets that they have. It could be hunting or fishing or whatnot. It may be foraging. So you have these elements, and survivalists have a different take on things, and not always as different, that much different than a prepper, but there are two different terms, and so sometimes they can be used to separate the two, and so preppers tends to be someone who just prepares. It could be someone in the suburban area, the urban area, maybe even the rural area. And versus a survivalist just has a different a mentality that lends a little bit more toward this, maybe a little more ultra ruggedness, someone that can just be more like a MacGyver in their environment, that you may not have a lot of resources in a cache somewhere or in a reserve in your home or somewhere, but you can use what you do have very efficiently. And so, not to say that there aren't preppers like that can do the things that survivalists do. But as you can see, though, they're very, very close, and it's kind of hard to separate the two. But I just thought I'd make this little video, just kind of saying, hey, if you have any ideas as well you would like to add to this, because I'm not sure if I've explained it very well, but I've tried to kind of maybe give some little points to highlight that there could be some differences. But in general, though, it's an interchangeable type of terms or titles. And we shouldn't get stuck on titles or terms like, what are you? Are you a prepper or are you a survivalist? And if you're the wrong one, then you can't be my friend. That's ridiculous. So we're just working together here to create, a lot of information and skill sets and ideologies to help us weather, difficult times, so that we can lessen suffering and lessen the chance of death of friends and family and ourselves. So how can that be a bad thing? It doesn't really matter to me if whatever you are. You may just be even a bushcrafter. People underestimate bushcraft. I think bushcrafters may be even a little bit more closer to a survivalist, in my opinion, than even a prepper. But there are bushcrafters that are preppers. So, it can go so many different ways, and there's so many combinations. It just depends on what you're into and, what you identify with. And so it might be someone might say, well, I think you're a little more of a survivalist. And they might say, no, I think I'm a little bit more of a prepper. And it's all about how you frame, your ideologies, your information and what you think, based on your experience and your definition of the words, those titles, those labels. And so I'm going to try to make sure that I don't try to put labels on anything, on any people in particular, that's unnecessary. Sometimes I have to label my my videos for obvious reasons to identify what the content is for, but for the most part, I don't try to preach that you have to be anything in particular. I just say just try to be prepared, and however you want to label yourself, that's up to you. You guys take care.